On January 1, 2017 I spent in Georgia and I was staying at a hostel in the city of Batumi on Sakumi Street, 6010 Batumi, Georgia, and I booked the hostel on Booking.com. Now when I look at the pictures on Booking.com, I am not 100% sure it is that hostel, but in the pictures on Booking, there are the same beds and curtains and also the owner was a woman. From the information I see now, I spent my New Year's Eve at Luza Hostel on 42 Sakumi Street. On New Year's Eve I went to the center of Batumi and then back to the hostel. Around 2 to 3 a.m. I got a call from my sister but I didn't answer. A couple of lovers, a boy and a girl, were staying in the room with a window facing the road and I was staying in the room with a window facing the landlady's house. At which that boy's phone rang and I heard him walking by and stopped at my door. In my room the light was off but in the corridor the light was on so I could see the shadow of his feet standing by my door. And he says, "I'm at his door." Then my phone rings again and I don't answer it but this boy says to the phone, "Yes, I hear the phone ringing," and the girl he was talking to was my sister. Since then I don't talk to her anymore. I could have published this information much earlier but I probably didn't because those who recruited with one purpose: to destroy me. Olesya Plop and Igor Mokinu were recruited for the simple reason that they were people close to me. Not because of their intelligence, or other intellectual abilities. Igor, educated as a forester and a waiter, should have worked all his life as a waiter and Olesya could have become a good sports journalist. When a German who was a Russian spy with the nickname Topaz in West Germany was asked if you were a Russian spy, he answered ironically, in jest, "That's what most spies do." What do Olesya Plop, Igor Mokinu, and Vasy Leonica have in common now? Germany. Vasy Leonica worked for a while as a waiter and then he was employed in a private security company as a guard. I saw in a picture Vasy Leonica next to his security colleague with two journalists from TV8, one was Natalia Morar and the other was Angela Ganta. The journalists from TV8 had accumulated money to make donations and Vasila with his colleague came to take the money. On the way, some masked people with Kalashnikovs stopped the car in which Vasila was with the money from the journalists and stole the money. Natalia Morar is considered to be a Russian agent of influence and that's why I can't write more because there is no clear evidence and in case she sues me. I have no evidence from FSB or counterintelligence services but I can say that her actions are pro-Russian, because Natalia Morar also appeared on a Ukrainian website that exposes Russian spies. My Rotvorets Center. For me it's a clear signal that Vasila has been processed by the Russians. Vasila has neither character nor dignity and I have no doubt that he is an easy victim for the FSB branch in Moldova. My best friends were those from university and not those from my childhood or taekwondo. When I was staying at another hostel, 68 Sakumi Street 6010, Shorin Hostel, on the same street in Batumi City, one morning the intelligence came and searched this house. There were many people in civilian clothes and the wife of this Belarusian Jew was pregnant and crying because of these security men. She was crying very loud. I was the only guest of this hostel. When I came out, these security men looked at me and smiled and the Belarusian Jew was trying to calm his wife down. The intelligence service told me to leave the house. I wasn't interrogated or checked. When I came back there was nobody from the Georgian intelligence service, but when I asked this Jew, he didn't want to tell me anything. In Georgia I accidentally met in spring 2017 a Polish guy with whom I was in the same volunteer program in Denmark. I should mention that I first arrived in Denmark and I was part of the program while he came later. I should mention that I first arrived in Denmark and I was part of the program while he came later and was baking bread in this organization. I don't believe in accidental encounters. His name is Alexander and I believe he was sent by someone in Denmark as well as in Georgia. I bought a Kutaisi Munich ticket on July 22, 2017, and at the end of June I announced this in a video and there was an Orthodox Christian church in my backyard. All my social media accounts were blocked, including 2 Facebook pages. One had 95,000 followers and the other 15,000 followers, where I was promoting different opportunities for students to attend seminars in several countries. My Facebook pages were blocked by the FSB branch in Moldova and Romania with the consent of the Americans. These Facebook pages were my only source of income. They blocked my pages with the purpose of going to the Russians or the Turks. That's what they always did, that I would go to the Russians or Turks and declare that I was a Russian or Turkish spy, and they would be promoted as having found a Russian or Turkish spy. All NATO member countries have access to Facebook, and one could very quickly see who asked for my social networks to be blocked. I am tired of running from undercover activists who were providing services to the KGB and the former communist political class both in Moldova and Romania and the former Warsaw Treaty Organization countries. And then I came up with a plan. All the Polish counterintelligence service had to do was to interrogate the Romanians and Moldovans, and they would find the whole network of Russian spies in both Moldova and Romania. If I wanted to work for Turkey, I was in Turkey now. If I wanted to work for the Russians, I was now in Moscow. I was and am ready to pass the polygraph test. I even considered the fact that I would be imprisoned, but after the investigation by the Polish counterintelligence service, I was to be released in 7 days or a month. I wouldn't even think that the Poles would take bribes from the FSB branch in Moldova and Romania. In the summer of 2017, I bought a Kutaisi London ticket at the beginning of July and left Georgia the same day. When I left Georgia for the UK, I slept one day at the airport, then the next day I went to the other airport in London and left for Aarhus in Denmark. In Denmark I slept one night in the bus station, then I left by bus to Copenhagen. In Copenhagen I slept again one night in the train station. From Copenhagen I left by car BlaBlaCar to Hamburg, where the G20 summit was taking place. I stayed only 2 hours, then I took the train Hamburg-Berlin-Frankfurt. I crossed the border to Poland via Slubice, where a cycling competition was held. From London to Slubice, Poland, I saw at least 20 Moldovan/Romanians who followed me. I had 2 bags with me. In one there were documents, and in the other there were clothes. A Moldovan and a Romanian who were by car found me in the forest near the town of Slubice/Poland. I was very tired, I hadn't slept 4 nights, and I had to leave my bags to escape. I had to run through the forest at night to get rid of them. If they caught me in the woods, then I was going to be buried there by Moldovans and Romanians. I ran all night to get rid of them until I reached a village. I jumped a few wire fences, then I hid in a house with 2 floors which was under construction. I found an axe, and I thought that if they enter the house I will appear with the axe. As they approached the village, I heard dogs barking. I was ready to fight the Russian bitches, Moldovan/Romanians, and I slept with the axe next to me all night. On the first day when I arrived in Warsaw, I went to the Polish counterintelligence service to ask for protection. The service is called Internal Security Agency, Agent Bezpieczeństwa Wewnętrznego. On the first day I arrived in Warsaw, I was in the Polish Parliament, and after the meeting I went directly to the Polish counterintelligence service to ask for protection. The service is called Internal Security Agency, Agent Bezpieczeństwa Wewnętrznego. At Agent Bezpieczeństwa Wewnętrznego, Internal Security Agency, I talked to a Polish man. When I asked to be a defender of Moldovans and Romanians whom I suspected of spying for Russia, he began to ask me about intuition. I start talking about my situation, but he asks me about intuition. I think I didn't sleep for almost a week. I slept in the train stations, I ran through the forest, and when I arrived this Polish idiot asked me about intuition. Moreover, they started collaborating with these Moldovans/Romanians who wanted to kill me, and they, the Poles with the Moldovans and the Romanians, to challenge against a person who was a member of Solidarity and who had an enormous role in Poland's accession to NATO. All agent Jabazpiksinstwe Vonitors had to ask some questions to Moldovans and Romanians. Why did you follow him? Who paid you to follow him? What job did you have before you started following him? How much money did you receive and how much money do you have in your account now? Who recruited you? Why did you follow him and not? Why do you avoid meeting him? Poles could solve the problem in 48 hours but they didn't want to. I also want to say that I have never worked for an institution in Moldova or Romania and I am ready to pass a polygraph test in front of all NATO member states that I was not and I am not an agent/spy. Also that I am in perfect health and that I am not going to commit suicide. If you give power to an idiot, he is a monkey with Kalashnikov. If the Internal Security Agency, Agent Jabazpiksinstwe Vonitors started the investigation, they would have caught the entire Russian intelligence branch in Moldova/Romania. If I were to face these Moldovans/Romanians after 2 hours of questioning, Moldovans/Romanians would be arrested for espionage in favor of Russia. But they did not do this. I had to apply for political asylum again. If you apply for political asylum in a country, they do not have the right to give information from the country of origin where you are. Any collaboration between the country where you applied for asylum and with your country of origin is strictly forbidden. If the country in which you applied for asylum collaborates with the country where you come from, it is called espionage. The Internal Security Agency, Agent Jabazpiksinstwe Vonitors together with the institution dealing with refugee protection started collaborating with Moldovans and Romanians who wanted to kill me. These two institutions took bribes from Moldovans and Romanians. If they asked the questions, Moldovans and Romanians should be arrested but they did not. Moreover, Moldovans, Poles and Romanians conducted Nazi experiments on refugees in the refugee camp. For the crimes committed by the Poles, life imprisonment awaits them and the Poles understand this very well. All Poles who collaborated with Moldovans/Romanians are now Russian bitches and they will do whatever Moldovans/Romanians say. All Poles, all, without exception, who collaborated with Moldovans/Romanians in 2017 must be dismissed and investigated for corruption and espionage because they pose a danger to NATO. These Poles will do whatever the Moldovans or Romanians say, otherwise the prison awaits them. These Poles are already Russian bitches and the Russians are interested in keeping them in office. To be further promoted. The only problem of the Russians is me, and for that they will do everything possible to imprison me, psychiatry or accidental death. They will do everything possible to prove that I am a Russian, Turkish, Romanian, American spy. Just to save these Polish, Romanian, Moldovan bitches. When I was an asylum seeker, the Poles were forced to interrogate me but they did not. I asked the Poles to send a whole list of Moldovans and Romanians with whom they collaborated to the FBI. It seemed to me that the Poles are the only ones who understand Russia, but they also have their idiots and corrupt people. Since the disintegration of the USSR, Poland's current counterintelligence service is one of the most stupid and corrupt. I don't even hire them as car parkers. In December 2017 I received a negative decision from the Polish authorities to the refugee status I had applied.